In coming days, Savior returns with power and great glory. This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, of Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
Travis, my good soul. Section 101 of the Doctrine and Covenants. This is after Joseph Smith's parable prophecy of the latter days about the destruction of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and of the Mormons, the complete and utter destruction as prophesied in the Book of Mormon. And so, we've begun the prophecy series for the Book of Mormon, done the introduction already, and we're ready to get to the new name of the Mormon Christ for the latter days. But first, the general topic for the day. That's how I roll. After talking about the collapse of Utah with its destruction by an enemy, he then goes on to talk about verse 77. Now let's do 80 first, and we'll go back to 77. Well, let's read 77 to 80. According to the laws and constitution of the people, which I have suffered to be established, should be maintained for the rights and protection of all flesh, according to just and holy principles, that every man may act in doctrine and principle pertaining to futurity, according to the moral agency which I have given unto him, that every man may be accountable for his own sins in the day of judgment. Therefore it is not right that any man should be in bondage one to another. And for this purpose I have established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men whom, recognize the pattern match here, I raised up. Pattern match. The Jewish Christ unto this very purpose, and redeemed the land by the shedding of blood. That's a little teaser for the upcoming Book of Mormon prophecy video series. And so, and section 109 is a prayer. I believe it's the dedication prayer of the Kirtland Temple. Have mercy, O Lord, upon all nations of the earth. Have mercy upon the rulers of our land. May those principles which were so honorably and nobly defended, namely the Constitution of our land, by our fathers be established forever. Article of Faith, number 12. We believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, and obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. How did I do on that one? And so it's pretty clear that Joseph Smith taught that Mormons are to embrace the Constitution and protect it and defend it. In July 1840, which Brigham Young refused to have published in the Doctrine and Covenants, Joseph Smith talks about this Section 101 and the threat to America in the latter days, and identifies the threat to America in the latter days, and says that that threat to America in the latter days will murder him, Joseph Smith. Yes, it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by Brigham Young. And in the Book of Mormon, we have Captain Moroni, who is the basis upon which Joseph Smith gave that revelation in July 1840, talking about how it's important for Mormons to step up and save the Constitution when it's on the brink of collapse and ruin. You probably heard hanging by a thread. It's not his words. Brink of ruin. And so Captain Moroni wasn't just doing a title of liberty for the sake of protecting the Nephites from the Lamanites. If you got that from your reading, pondering, and praying and getting the right feeling, you missed the whole purpose of that passage. The title of liberty was against the kingmen who were threatening to overthrow the constitution of Mosiah at Zarahemla. And so had to go back to Zarahemla with a part of his army to quell the rebellion, to restore the Constitution from these kingmen who wanted to return the Nephites back to a monarchy. Any of this sounding familiar with the United States of America? And so the United States Constitution has the Bill of Rights, and it has the 14th Amendment, Section 1 and Section 3, so that if there were to be any kingmen rising up in insurrection against the United States of America to return to a monarchy and overthrow the Constitution, Section 3 was the protection to lock them up and kick them out of government office. The 6th article of the Constitution makes it very clear that we are the United States under the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. All other subsequent laws are to be made in pursuant of the Constitution. Nobody is allowed to go rogue. Nobody is allowed to be sovereign. We are the United States, not the sovereign states of a divided America. And in the Book of Mormon, 3rd Nephi, chapter 7, there was an assassination of the chief judge of the land, and the people were now divided one against the other in a false dichotomous argument. We'll say liberals versus conservatives. communists versus Nazis, populists versus globalists. And they did separate from one another. They seceded from their Nephite kingdom, their Nephite nation. Everybody went their own way and established their own government, destroying the government of the land. And then they had democracy. They voted for the leaders of their sovereign states. And this is right before the utter destruction of the Nephites. And the coming forth of non-Trinitarian Jesus from outer space, not on a flying horse though. Why is that? Revelation, John says very clearly, he's on a white horse. Where's the white horse in the Book of Mormon? And he's not even wearing red. Neither am I today. I'm wearing green, doing laundry. Had to wait until the last load finished up because that's the loudest part of the laundry. So I saved you from having to talk over it. And so in the United States, the Supreme Court of the United States of America has overthrown the 14th Amendment, Section 1, by overthrowing Roe v. Wade. Nobody seems to know this, which is sad that nobody knows their Constitution. The 14th Amendment says that everyone who is born and naturalized are citizens and have the full rights of the United States Constitution. Born. Is a fetus born? No. The fetus has no rights because it's not born. This is how they determined what to do with pregnant women. That was the 14th Amendment, Section 1. Long time ago, over 100 years, they knew how to handle pregnant women. The woman gets rights, not the fetus. Very simple, very plain and precious, and yet the Supreme Court justices overthrew it. And now as a result, we have sovereign states who are seceding from the nation, taking their cue from the MAGA insurrection on January 6th, and now the follow-up Insurrection Act by the Supreme Court of the United States of America. It's almost as if the Book of Mormon was prophesying about this. So, I did some checking, and the BBC had done a Guttmacher Institute study. I thought they were English, not German, to show the difference between 2000 and 2020 regarding hostility towards abortion rights in the United States of America. And so pink leans hostile, mauve leans, it doesn't lean, it's hostile, and then the blood red is for very hostile. Interesting choice of color. And so in 2000, Ohio, Alabama, right? I don't think that's Georgia. I think that's Alabama. It's been so long since I was forced to memorize. And South Carolina. Plus, Utah was very hostile towards abortion rights. In 2000. What happened in 2000? You do know that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was responsible for preventing the Equal Rights Amendment for women from getting made an amendment. You did know that, right? Church hates women. No, Travis. They have women in councils now. Missionaries can wear slacks. Women no longer wear a veil. You fell for that, huh? Uh-huh. Okay. And so in 2020, Utah downgraded to hostile. But they're sneaky. They've got ulterior motives. They're the ones who are behind all of this. 290, 291. All these new people who don't watch the video where I go over that, they're always complaining, that doesn't mean anything to me. Mormons, they want to be saved in ignorance. And so we have different states, except for Alabama, assuming that's Alabama. I should probably check. That are very hostile. And since the overthrowing of Roe v. Wade, we are witnessing to others who are now more emboldened, like Texas, for example, all of a sudden became very hostile when it was hostile back in 2020. And in 2000, it was leans hostile. And so Texas has grown very hostile towards abortion. But yeah, the overthrow of Roe v. Wade was the trigger to let Texas go on the full assault against women. As women are trying to flee, and Texas is now trying to make laws to prevent women from fleeing and locking them up in prison for fleeing for their lives. Women now have to move out of Texas. That's the sad reality. This is what I had warned you guys way back with the 2020 election and subsequent videos when Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about a national divorce and such, is that people will be forced to move out of the segregated states to states that are more favorable to them, and thus America will be divided between the liberals and the conservatives, or whatever term you use for them. United States. Kidding me? Why did you do that? You're supposed to just do a little pop-up thing. Instead, you're taking me to a whole new page. Yep, Alabama. No, Mississippi. Oops. So much for my memory. That's why I have reference books. I use associative memory. So yes, Mississippi has always been very hostile towards abortion rights for women. And so the map is showing a very hostile stance towards women. there's not very many places for women to flee to now. And that's extremely sad. We have California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, which I suspect will change when the church takes over their kingdom next year. And Colorado likewise. And potentially New Mexico and Montana. And Wyoming will get more hostile as the church takes over. Wisconsin, Illinois, and then the upper states from New York on up, and Massachusetts and Delaware. Likewise. Let's get to these other pictures. All right, so now what we have are state abortion bans that the New York Times had done an article on, and that's where I got the picture from. And so we have full ban, 6-week ban, 12-week ban, 15 to 8-week ban. Utah falls into the 15 to 18-week ban, but they're still messing around with it. Idaho, full ban. The OBGYNs had to flee the state. There are no OBGYNs in the state of Idaho now. Texas, yeah, obviously. And I am horrified to see the full bans in this nation. North Dakota, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. I should have used this one first. Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, all have full bans. The 6-week bans are only Georgia and South Carolina. The 12-week bans are Nebraska and North Carolina, and the 15 to 8-week are Utah, Arizona, and Florida. And as states get further divided and chase more of their people out of their land, you're going to see these other states rise up in full bans because they have no liberals protesting and no federal government to stop them. And that's the whole point and purpose, is to overthrow the United States Constitution and establish sovereign states in violation of the 6th article. And so, because our DOJ did not prosecute all the insurrectionists from January 6th, it's now snowballing down the mountain and is escalating in its intensity and will come to a head where a complete dismissal of the federal government will be necessary to make this official and thus fulfill the Book of Mormon prophecy. And so here in here in Utah, I saw in the news last night of a company that's involved in social media something or other are suing Utah for their social media law that doesn't take effect until right before the big conference next year, when Utah gets, or the Nelson, or if it's Oaks, we'll see, will get up at the pulpit of conference and declare that the kingdom of Jesus has been restored to the earth, and then will unveil the palace of Jesus. The temple still isn't ready yet, but the palace should be ready, maybe. Unveil the palace of Jesus and bring out statue Jesus for all Mormons to worship and bow to, and declare Utah a sovereign state in the nation. It's Governor Herbert, or Cox now, because Herbert failed the church, and so they put the Danite descendant Cox in his place. And so Cox will then go to the pulpit of the conference and hand over the keys of government to Nelson or Oakes, who's ever alive. Maybe it'll be Saudi Arabia. Maybe Karen will be the new president. and taking it on behalf of Elder Karen will be Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, who will be given the keys of Utah to run the kingdom. Wouldn't that be nice? Faith promoting. Jesus. Saudi Arabia believes in Jesus. Did you know that? And so, what they are suing for is the sneaky, underhanded trick that I had already warned you about when they were attacking porn sites. It wasn't to protect children. None of their laws are to protect children. Nope. It's a trick. It's a cover-up for what they're actually doing. See, in Nazi Germany, right before the big war and the big lockup of Jews and others who were labeled prior to, gays were given a label and identified. Those even of Christian who were opposed to the new rulership were labeled. And so when they finally implemented things, as they were able to escalate it to that point, as is America heading towards, that those labels were then used against the people. They were a blacklist to round up those who would be opposed to their new world order. And so I have been warning you all these years of this being done, even in Utah, where LGBTQIAPL+, I warned you not to add letters. You are already protected in the 14th Amendment, Section 1. You were born. You are naturalized. You're a citizen. You have the rights. Blacks, other nationalities, other ethnic groups, other religious groups, all protected. But everybody wants to overthrow the government. This law was exposed by this group. This is what they're suing for. As that it's not to protect children, it's instead to give out the personal information of adult users to the government of Utah. Right before the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints takes over the government of Utah in that first April conference. You see what they're doing? And so it will not be the government who will be obtaining this. It will be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which will be the government obtaining this data of adults. Well, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to know who's for the church and who's against the church in the state of Utah and surrounding states that the church might happen to bring into their kingdom? Why would they want to know who's LGBTQIAPO+? Exactly. This is exactly what it's being used for. This is what they were doing for porn. This is what they're now doing for social media. They want to have a blacklist of who's for the church and who's against the church. And with the porn part, It was even more devious because the church can then compromise men who still believe that porn is evil and that they're wicked because they're looking at porn. All those idols don't get you every time. It's a good thing we need to establish Jesus idol. He is the one true idol God. Just like the 10 Commandments of the Jews was talking about. And so this blacklist is actually going to be the round them up, lock them up, and force them to conform and comply, or, concentration camps. So I know where I'm going. If somebody doesn't get me a ride out of here, and so that we can go to Zion, in southern Illinois, which, dear God, hostile territory all around. Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, all right there into war against us. We'll definitely have to be covert, because they don't watch my videos, do they? And so, yes, this is the danger that I see coming. And they also mentioned, and I warned you about psychology. They're the ones who caused this false dichotomy between liberals and conservatives in the first place. Going to our kids in the school system, going to the government, getting protections from prosecution, not having to reveal what they're doing to your children in the school systems. And then the kids all of a sudden are not graduating anymore, they're passing. And they're going into the workforce having passed high school. And now colleges and universities are doing passings as the students are rising up against the teachers, demanding that the teachers not teach. And so you've got all these kids on social media that are listening to pro-terrorism, to want a Holocaust of the Jews, and want to shame our founding fathers. Anybody Islamic in the audience? Do you shame the United States' founding fathers for their abominations and atrocities? Do you know about your founding religious leader, Muhammad? Yeah. Why are you throwing stones at America's founding fathers when you have Muhammad? Anybody Christian in the audience? Any of you throwing stones at America's founding fathers? And you're a Christian? Do you not know the origin of Christianity with Roman Emperor Constantine? Oh, whoops, you too have no right to throw stones at America's founding fathers. The Constitution as written is the fruit of our founding fathers. And so, yes, they had slaves. But the Constitution helped America try to pull out of it. We still have cops shooting unarmed, innocent black men in the back. But nonetheless, we as a nation must stand up against abusive cops. See, our Salt Lake County attorney, Gill, he will never prosecute police. He violates the United States Constitution every single time. Police are not allowed to violate the law. Doesn't matter if they're on duty. But he says that, well, I'm just following Utah law. There's nothing I can do. Utah law has to change so that I can then prosecute bad cops. He won't do it. And he blames Utah legislature. And I think he's going to be running for governor, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm hearing other things about somebody else challenging Cox for 2024. But regardless, yeah, this isn't the way government is to be run. And as a result, Utahns don't trust the cops. And the cops are treating Utahns as the enemy. They have to be suspicious of us. They don't trust us. They're not here to help us. And you have Behind the Badge for ABC4 News Utah perpetuating the authoritarianism of the cops. As the cops will occasionally try to pretend that they're good people. But when you already have actions of being treated as the enemy, the people don't believe these token signs of charity and goodness. Because we see you in the parade every 24th of July. The authoritarian march through the state. Exactly what authoritarians do with their military. And so America has fallen. And now the states are in the process of seceding from the nation, using the Supreme Court overthrowing the Constitution to proceed further involvement in this. And to claim that it's to protect the mental health of children. This is what I heard on the news segment. And And I've told you that mental health is just the latest term that psychologists are using. Because back in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't called mental health. It was called retarded. If you had to go see a psychologist, you were retarded. You had a mental retardation and you needed help from a psychologist. And if you were in denial that you had mental retardation, you were in denial that you had mental retardation. Those fallacy arguments. And so yes, impairment, disabled, diseased, illness, retarded, mental health challenged, psychotic, psychopathic, mental, emotional, behaviorally challenged, unstable, malfunction, chemical imbalance, extremist, radical, deranged, stressed, moron, depressed, special, our special little boy, LGBTQIAPO+. This is why they were doing conversion therapy. Psychologists doing conversion therapy, just like Nazi Germany. Religious extremists. Yeah, that's what the blacklist is for, guys. When Utah takes over their kingdom, you now become a religious extremist if you are not loyal to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who are the Orthodox conservatives. You are the extremists. Criminal, crazy, and schizophrenic. All abusive, bullying, name-calling by psychologists. And so just because they're calling it mental health now, don't be fooled. You know, it's like no longer having to wear a veil in the temple or getting to wear slacks on your mission. And now getting to see the priesthood meetings for conference, which have been banned. There are no more. Take that, women. You do not get to hear our super sacred secret talks. And so you can see that behind this law was psychologists claiming that social media is the cause of retardedness of our children. Had nothing to do with the public school system in Utah that does not teach logical Socratic method argument, so that our kids would be properly taught correct history and science fields that couple with this so that they can know what truth is versus some nut job claiming to be the truth. A truther telling my truth. All that crap on both sides. And if you didn't know the state of Utah, when anything is involving psychology, it's involving the orders and directives of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Family services. And if you don't know about family services, they've got a lot of abominations in their past, involving abortion, or rather the lack thereof. Oh, you're a wicked, sinful girl who was raped. I'm sure if you didn't wear those clothing, you wouldn't have gotten raped. Well, you need to have that baby because it's a sin to murder. And then we'll give that baby to a good Mormon family who are rich and can take care of it because you're poor and have to stay with your parents in shame now. It's abominable. And so yes, the church had an adoption agency too, through family services. Just abominable. And so then gay marriage came around and the church bailed on adoptions because gays want babies too. Apparently they don't know how to have a baby of their own, so they adopt. Go figure. Well, and so yeah, I found it interesting that the one guy that's involved with this lawsuit was talking about how this kind of thing is done in China or Iran or Nazi Germany. And he tried to claim, not in Utah. Excuse me? Exactly in Utah. The church has always supported the enemies of this nation, going all the way back to the Illuminati, prior to the founding of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yes, that whole Brigham and Heber C. Kimball. They were a part of that in the infiltrated Scottish Rites Freemasonry prior to 9/11/1826 and the coming forth of the Book of Mormon as a result of it. Book of Mormon knows the enemy. Joseph Smith knows the enemy. And so yes, churches supported the Confederates. Why do you think we have the land of Dixie down south? And then we supported the Democrats prior to World War II. They were the KKK. Where did you think we got the symbol for the CTR ring? And then, yeah, we supported Hitler in World War II. Moroni and the swastika. And the atrocities of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, yes, we then turned GOP with the McCarthy era. Oh, we're not communist. We are Nazi just like you, GOP now. And then Nixon was the first one to invert the pentagram on the elephant in his campaign. Yay! All of these groups, they invert the star. And then Hitler, Nazi Germany, inverted the swastika. And so now instead of a Hindu symbol, it's now inverted. And then, so yes, the Tea Party with Mike Lee, and then MAGA. They've been involved in all of this. And so yes, is it the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers? One of the insurrectionist groups, led by a former Mormon. And Mormons were involved in the insurrection. Not just in government, Mike Lee. So, yeah, we're all doomed, aren't we? Isn't that great? Okay, these are for a different video for Jasmine and the missionaries. Because we got an update on the missionary visit to Jasmine. So we'll go over that one next. And so, yeah, the power of suggestion is the big thing on how psychologists are able to get people to self-fulfill their self-fulfilling category boxes of name-calling abuse for you. And so you'll see the news. They'll say, polls say that Biden sucks. No, I don't. They made up the poll. They may have talked to, a few hundred people, maybe. But the questions that were asked were leading questions. They were suggesting to the people what to answer. And they limit the answers to about 4 maybe options. And sometimes either a yes or a no. And so the answers that they would normally give if they were taught how to identify fallacious arguments, like a poll, they would then be able to say, well, this is actually my answer, and it would be something completely different than liberal or Democrat. But that's how the 2016 election was overthrown, as the power of suggestion by psychologists, as Facebook got involved with Cambridge Analytica to send them to Russia, and then Russia used that data to target their advertising on the specific people who were Pocahontas for the Disney princess. That's how I know all about this. I just took it for fun. I knew that it was psychology based. And so I was trying to get it to be Bell. But nope. I'm too liberal. So, yeah, we're all doomed, guys. Did you not see this? The dangers that I'm calling out in my videos against the church and what's going to happen, and the need to flee not only from the church but from Utah, is serious. And nobody wants to take it seriously. And the majority of my viewers who do follow me are not even in Utah. So frustrating. So we're done. So we'll do this video and then get to Jasmine and such.